Are you experiencing back pain that you can't get rid of? Getting migraines, vertigo, having trouble sleeping, and/or brain fog? Do you feel like your medical doctor doesn't understand your condition? Blair Chiropractic might be the solution you've been looking for. If you've ever been skeptical about this, the two doctors you're about to listen to were even more skeptical than you were when they looked into chiropractic work. But fear not. Get expert guidance from the blonde and the bald, Doctors Beth Bagley and Frederick Schurger. These two doctors have extensive experience beyond the healthcare realm and bringing unique vision and healing to their patients. What do you have when you get a biological analyst and an engineer together? Find out right here on another episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Welcome your hosts, Doctors Bagley and Schurger.
Hello, folks. Welcome to The Blonde and the Bald. I'm Dr. Frederick Schurger.
I'm Dr. Beth Bagley. Hey, Doc. It's been a few weeks.
It has been, and hopefully, everyone else won't notice a change in the process. Everyone's going to notice. It's like for those watching on YouTube and videos, no bow tie, but it's we're doing this at noon. We're trying some other things, and schedules have been rough, but we are making sure we get content out to people talking about all that is great in the world of upper cervical chiropractic and just in general. So want to start with some sad news, though.
Yeah.
My good friend, Dr. Philip Schalow, passed away on Monday due to complications from some cancer treatment. Not going to get into any details because I don't have a whole lot of them, but it was rather sudden and unexpected. Mm-hmm. Philip was an interesting character. So this is my pseudo eulogy about Philip, and my honor is honoring him. But Philip, I don't know if, because you're also a singer.
Yes.
And I'm a musician myself. But Philip and I immediately bonded. And I've got a funny story that I'll come back to here in a second, but we immediately bonded because we were both musicians, and this is both for both of us. This was a second, what's the word I'm looking for? A second career, because he was a professional musician as a violinist for 15 years or something like that. It was a good long time. And of course, I was an engineer, and that was the best. That was one of our best parts. Is we could have this conversation that was completely sidebar, that nobody else understood the jokes when they were musician jokes, but the three of us would appreciate it. And we're all really tall, so tall jokes came in as well.
Yeah. I mean, I knew him just from a few seminars. I did not know him as well as you did, but he was always just the sweetest guy. And what on Facebook, at least, when I would always comment or like any of his posts with he would put musician jokes and things that, again, normal people that don't play an instrument or read music would know. And some of them I didn't get. I had to look things up a few times because he was so much above me musically. But man, he was an analytical, like a brain. Like he had just such a beautiful brain for obviously his craft, which was Nuka technique, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
And which is an upper cervical technique for those listening. But he brought it down to earth too. He was a really amazing man.
Well, and Philip and I, we immediately connected because we were both very cerebral. I don't know. We connected immediately. I think we really met in person finally the first day of that upper cervical diplomate. He and I both got into the front row, and the only reason that he had the outside, all these chairs in this conference room, it was two seats per table, and the only reason that I had the inside spot was because I got there 2 minutes before he did, because I brought my coffee and he brought his tea. But we were immediately fast friends and hanging out, and super cerebral. We were always asking the questions that made everybody else in the class's head hurt. And they're like, I don't understand that. And we were also the ones that would push to say, no, this is why we have to elevate things to this level, because we had seen it from an outside perspective, whereas a lot of the other docs in that program, nothing against them, but they had, their entire experience had been in chiropractic, not outside in the real world working with people. And I think that makes for both you and I, it's a strength because we don't automatically assume, oh, it's a chiropractic thing. No, it might just be your work environment sucks. Or, you can't, for him as a violinist, he was working with musicians, and this is a horrible position for your neck.
It really is.
And it's even worse when you're trying to play your bass like that. I mean, it's
you should not play your bass like that.
I do not. It doesn't fit underneath my chin. My cello players, every now and then they do something silly like that, and I'm just like, no, don't do that. You got a nice long pointy stick at the end. But in any case, no, I mean, the funny story is he and I were connected even before this, because he sits down next to my wife at a Medicare seminar here that I didn't go to. And, this was back when we were upper cervical health centers, and he sees that she's wearing upper cervical, and he's like, oh, I don't know you. I got to learn, figure out who you are. So they connected, and she said, oh, you two are going to have a great time. And sure enough, I mean, we roomed often together when we were doing all these diplomate things. He and I would argue at length about the immune study, because we put him as lead author on the study. While I'd put together all the pieces and parts behind the scenes, he and I ended up working on all of the trying to figure out how to put all this stuff together, to figure out how do we do this, how do we do this, how do we do this, and it's rough. It's going to be really rough not to have him around, because he would. He intellectually pushed me in directions, and I think I did the same with him, that it's going to be rough, because he was in that perspective of, in the NUCA group, where he would look beyond what was taught in that technique. And sometimes, I'm not saying we have blinders within our techniques, but we have blinders within our techniques where, hey,
yes,
do this,
all of us do.
And do this and do this and do this, because we know this works. And Philip and I were like, hey, what's over there? That's fascinating. And I think that's, again, just the way our musical taste worked. We didn't, just say, oh, I just love this, and I'm only going to do this. No, we're like, I like a little bit of rock and roll. I like a little bit of jazz. I like Shostakovich. I don't really like classical, but I like Shostakovich. And that's, again, a musical joke for people who understand it. But we could have those conversations, and you don't always have those people in your lives. And when you do, you really need to cherish them. And Philip was, I think he had 3 or 4 children. His wife is still around, and the upside is his associates are holding down the fort at his practice, but it's not the way you want to get patients.
No.
So, funny aside, new patient comes in last week. She's like, Doc, I'm having all sorts of problems. I used to see Dr. Matthias, who we've talked about in the past, and he passed away a little bit over a year ago. But she comes on in, and her, I think, boyfriend or husband, brings her with, and he's like, man, this office looks really familiar. Have we been in this building before? And I'm like, I don't remember you two. Sure enough, she came in when Dr. Matthias had fallen off a ladder. She kept on thinking she went to see somebody on 4th Street who would have been retired and moved by that point in time, or one was retired, one had moved. And sure enough, she was in my system. She'd come in years ago. I think I helped her a little bit, and then Doc got better because I got Doc better, and or I got Doc's head on straight, and he got better back then. So it's just funny how those things come full circle sometimes. And she's doing great. Took her a little bit to unwind from the problem that she had, but she hadn't seen Doc in 2 years. And
wow.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that it took her that long to say, ooh, I need to get in to see somebody, or the fact that it feels like time is running that fast.
Yes.
And you don't realize that much time has passed between the last time you saw somebody.
I feel like that happens. I don't know if this is just a new phenomenon, but since COVID, I feel like
Yes.
that's happening a lot in my office where somebody will be like, coming back. And I'm like, oh, welcome back. And we code them a little differently when they've come back after
Sure.
about 6 months so that we have just a bit more time to talk to them. And they're like, oh, it hasn't been that long. And I was like, it's been 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
what? And they
Yeah.
just don't, there's no concept of it. And I feel, but for me too, as a doctor, a lot of times I'll be like, oh, we just saw you. And then
Yeah.
I'll look and it's been 7 months. And
Yeah.
so, but one last thing I'll say quickly about like Philip is that like it, and I'm sure he would feel the same way, is if I was on my like end of life journey.
Yeah.
One of our, you care about your family and all this stuff, but one of the things us as chiropractors is we'd be worried about our patients and somebody taking care of them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be one of these really incredible things about chiropractors is that we put so much ahead of ourselves a lot of times.
Yes.
If
Philip
someone calls
definitely did.
us,
Yeah.
And I guess there's a benefit. That's a wonderful thing, but there's also like the detriment. Sometimes our family suffers for that. Sometimes, sometimes our personal
Yes.
lives or friendships suffer. And, but I am so happy that he has some trusted doctors in his office that can help his patients get through the grief of losing their doctor, but
Yeah.
also be that they can take care of his people, because he probably just loved them just like family, like we do our patients. So, rest in peace, Philip. I hope your journey is
Absolutely.
swift and it's bright and beautiful where you are.
Exactly. And I think, I'm going to try to make it up to the visitation on Friday. It'll be, we're coming into November right now, and for us, but I'm going to try to make it up there for a little bit and visit with the family and, give my condolences. I've got several people who have said, you got like here give his wife a hug from me and me and me and me, and I'm like, all right, there's a lot of
That's
people.
a lot of hugs.
It's a lot of hugs. I'll do it.
It's just gonna be one powerful hug.
It will be, and so it's one of those things where you have a good friend and colleague who is really that person you can depend upon, and then something happens and they go. So don't know. Like
You never know. And that's why you're going to live every day to the fullest. And one of the reasons that we spend these hours with you guys listening, because we want this information to you. We want to get this, this incredible story of these doctors and the, what we've dedicated our lives to improving the health and wellness of others, and sometimes to the detriment of ourselves.
Yes. And then that is unfortunate. But this is why I also, we were talking about, could we, this happens to be, we're recording it at Wednesday noon instead of our Thursday evening.
Mm-hmm. And, and you can tell probably.
Yeah, well, I'm not dressed up in my normal work attire because I am
dressed in work attire just because I'm going to work after this, but we're in our homes. Yeah.
Right. And I haven't actually gotten to the point where I've taken a shower yet this morning. Aren't we all glad we don't have smell-o-vision?
Smell-o-vision would be not good now.
It would be really not good. But it's because of the things we have to do. Everyone looks at our schedule and says, Doc, don't you, what, you
don't even work.
Yeah. It's like, you don't see the hours that I'm not working.
And
one of the things that I'm doing on those hours is I'm doing that personal care so that I can be as strong as possible, so that, you can spend that time with your family. I can make sure my wife's taken care of the way she needs to be taken care of. And, we were joking. It's like, hey, we could do this earlier. And my response was no, because I've got my normal morning routine. Then I've got my workout. Then I'm eating lunch. And then it was 12:30 when we started this thing. So there are, when you don't take care of those things, when you don't take care of yourself in that meaningful manner, and this applies to everybody, something's going to give. And we need to sort of take a step back periodically and say, is everything that I am doing today serving me?
Yeah.
This thing here.
It's the devil.
It is. It really is. I mean, it's great because it gives me a lot of
Fabulous
connection.
I love it.
But then, I can spend easily an hour flipping through Instagrams just on the stuff that friends send me.
Yeah.
And there are days when I'm like, huh, did that? Oh, so I got a funny story. You know what's really bad about hunting close to a Wi-Fi signal? You can look at all your Instagrams with an earpiece while you're waiting for the deer to come by.
But you might miss a deer.
Well, no, because I'm half the time I'm more listening and then I can watch.
Oh, you're listening and not watching. Okay,
I'm back and forth. And
honestly, I might like hunting then and fishing if I have Wi-Fi signal.
Exactly. Well, I happen to, the tree that I decided to climb up, I had decent Wi-Fi signal. But I get up into the tree, I've got my earpiece in, ready to listen to my podcast or whatnot, as I'm just waiting for stuff to happen. And then I go to find my phone as I get all the way situated, and I realize, I must have left the phone back at the house.
No.
Yeah, but it was close enough in my brain that the Bluetooth worked. And I'm like, this is more than 30 feet. Maybe Bluetooth is 30 yards. Maybe I've mixed those two numbers up in my head. No, a little bit later, after I finished listening to the podcast, I take the earbud out because I'm like, well, all right, I can't control the phone remotely. And then I hear a buzz and I look down, and there on the ground in the leaves is my phone shining up at me, like that. Anyways, I'm going to drop it and break the screen again. So I'm just like, well, I could get down and grab it and watch Instagram, or I could leave it there and just enjoy the outdoors.
Yes.
And watching the squirrels, which they were hiding a little bit further back than where I could see very well. Every now and then they pop out. But they're, lo and behold, guess what I see? I see a peregrine falcon, clear as day, probably 10 feet away from me as it comes up and lands on a limb. Didn't stay there very long because I looked up at it. It says, oh, I don't want you to watch me. But I could hear it. And it's just such a pretty bird. And there was a lot of all of that nature noise. Man, it was just nice to unplug that way.
Yeah. And that is such a really good story for someone listening to hear. Is like, yes, you are on a device right now listening to us.
Yes.
But you're missing the world around you. And don't turn us off. But when we're done.
Not yet.
Not yet. But when you're done, and I think kids today also don't get that moment of boredom, right? Which takes creativity away. If you're constantly on a device and you're always interacting with that device, when's that time that you get bored where then you come up with something, an idea? So when parents talk about screen time and that and decreasing that, and even for adults, right?
Applies to us.
Our creativity is getting sucked out of us because you don't have ideas. Because when is time for your brain to have an idea? Or when you're constantly, even if I listen to my book, my Audible when I'm working around the house. Well, that may have been the time where you were going to think and came up with an idea of something with your family or friends, and we need the downtime for our brain. And in this day and age, sleep isn't enough. We need like brain breaks where you can go outside, put your feet on the ground, ground yourself, listen to nature. It's a little cold now, but
no, actually, this is the best time because you bundle up. I highly recommend picking up a pack of alpaca socks. In fact, I'll plug this Schalow brand that I picked up. These things are great. I don't know, no kickback yet. But
we should get free socks. Why aren't we getting free socks?
But they are great.
I like socks.
They don't stink because they're wool, so they're sort of anti.
Is that a real thing?
It really is.
Do wolves? They really don't stink.
Well,
anything can stink after a while, but
after a while, but
they have like a smell resistance.
Well, it's not so much a smell resistant as much as it's antimicrobial resistant, so it doesn't grow smell. but it's great, if you're, if half of your purpose of being out in the woods is not to be smelled by deer, and they smell everything, um, then it's going to be great. But it's also really warm. My aunt liked to have the the foot warmer things, the chemical foot warmer things that she sticks on her socks. And quite honestly, I find they're hit and miss, because sometimes the chemicals,
they don't work as well. I agree.
Or they've died out by the time you bought them. So there's a shelf life on those things. Whereas, wool, especially something like an alpaca, is really warm. I've sat in enough trees, and stood on ground long enough to know that a good pair of socks goes a long way to keeping your feet dry. If you talk to a Navy SEAL, what would they rather do? Go through the shortest path through the river, where they actually have to walk through the river and get their socks wet, or go 20 miles around, keeping their socks dry every time? And they're going to take that 20-mile around because they've spent enough time with wet socks that they would rather stay dry, which is an interesting aside.
Now you got to take care of your feet.
Yeah.
Got to take care of your feet.
So again, it's, all of these bits and pieces and parts are basically saying unplug. Interesting.
Yes.
And for the Instagram thing, my joke, about it falling out of the tree. Well, something happened Saturday where I couldn't even open Instagram. So, when the app starts getting goofy, what do? You delete it, you reinstall it, and usually that takes care of whatever weird 10 has flipped. I didn't turn on my notifications at all. And guess what? I haven't looked. I'll look a little bit, but I haven't looked as much as I would have beforehand. So even that little, red one in the corner to tell me I've got one person who sent me a message, that's gone. And it's enough for my brain, even though I've got some reflexes when I pick it up and I'm like, all right, I'm going to that little folder that I've got. Yeah. I don't see it. So my brain says, oh, nothing there. So I can walk away from it. So just turning off all those notification things, everyone's going to still talk to you and you'll get back to them eventually, but do it at your own time. Do it at your own pace.
Yeah, make yourself, like, just like you would for the child, is like, this is the time when you have screen time, and just say, okay, I'm going to do it at noon and I'll do it at 5. And those are the 2 times that I look at those things. If you have to, maybe you can do none of it. Like, let's do that, Doc. Can we do that?
I think we can do that. I think we should do that. Okay. In fact, I've been slowly carving that.
I'm challenging myself to do, like, and I have to get on socials because I have to do stuff with my work socials, but then I get sucked in. So I'm going to say I give myself, I'm going to say 20 minutes in the lunch hour. I'm not going to give it because my lunch hour shifts, and 20 minutes after work. And I'm going to put a timer on when I open it up.
And oftentimes my timer for, maybe watching videos and such, really comes down to, I have something playing while I'm making lunch and I'm eating lunch, and I'm just sort of catching up on things that I'm interested in. And then I have my coffee, and once the coffee's done, it's time to go. Time to go do your thing. So, sometimes those can be your outs, and you can nurse your coffee until it's cold, but then it's cold coffee, and who likes cold coffee?
That's a lot of people do. I don't, but I don't like coffee.
Well, there's that. So let's switch gears and talk, because I've got a recipe that I want to share in a moment, but let's switch gears to sugar. You had some ideas on sugar.
Yeah. So my personal journey with my health, sugar has been a big problem for me for years.
Yes.
And that I've talked to you about it. Yep. So just it was probably a month ago, every time I bent over, like, to adjust a patient, whether I had eaten or not, heartburn, right? It's just this awful acid reflux was happening. Nighttime acid reflux. Didn't matter what time I was having pretty much acid reflux constantly.
Right.
So then I started the journey of, like, I'll take a couple Tums, and that helps, like, a little bit, right?
Right.
I hadn't bought Tums in years because I had I've healed that, but it came back. It was
Right.
just as bad as when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with the twins, my acid reflux was awful. And anyone who's pregnant right now, it will get better when the babies come out
Yeah.
or baby, because it just happens to some people. But if I knew what I knew, if I knew now what I knew then, what am I saying? If I
Yes.
knew now what
Now, if you knew then what you know now.
there you go. If I knew then
Yeah.
what I knew now, sorry, brain fart there. I would say, hey, stop eating so many carbs and sugars, because literally 2 days after stopping sugar and carbs, 100% gone.
Yep.
And it proved to me, at least right now in my brain, in my addictive sugar brain, that, okay, that was really bad for me, what I was doing. And I wasn't like, as for the standard American diet, it wasn't like I was going to Burger King and McDonald's and I wasn't
Right.
eating crap food necessarily. It was a little crap food, I'm not going to lie,
Sure.
but it wasn't terribly crap food. But it was like a pasta here, or,
Right.
maybe some ice cream occasionally or something. And so for the last 2-3 weeks, I've been total keto.
Nice.
And even through Halloween, which was yesterday. And was that hard? It was a little hard, but I prepared. I made myself a little keto with it wasn't like a fat bomb, but it was a keto dessert,
Sure.
which you don't typically eat a lot of those, but I needed something so that I'd be like, okay, I don't need to eat that. I've got this.
Right.
And I ate like a protein bar that was somewhat keto. What's that one? That brick, the keto brick?
That's my toasted almond keto brick from my buddy Robert Sykes, Keto Savage.
Okay,
And,
Keto Savage.
and
I
that
need to buy some of those, because you let me try a little piece of something of that before, and it was really good.
This one's my
Okay.
favorite. This one, I mean, he's got several different flavors, but this is, this entire bar is 1,000 calories. It's a lot of calories, but you can quarter it, and that's what I do.
Yeah, you don't have to eat it all at once, you're saying.
No, he does, because this is part of this, as a food product, is part of his bodybuilding training regimen. And right now, I don't know how much of a bar he eats a day, but he's down to 1,600 calories on his main cutting days where he's at. But he's trying to get down to the leanest man alive. And right now he's sub 4% body fat, with I think 2 more, maybe 3 more shows that he's going to do before he starts, bringing his calories back up. His normal calories was somewhere around 3,000. So he made this as part, as something that he could have 1,000 calories of, that he knows is accurately 1,000 calories for his bodybuilding training.
What's in that? What is it primarily? Is it like coconut oil, or what is it?
It's raw organic cacao butter, plant-based protein.
Okay.
Usually he has both a pea protein blend as well as a whey protein blend, and both are good in their own ways. This one happens, for this brick, it's pea protein. He's got some chocolate in here. Stevia is his sweetener. A little bit of monk fruit, sea salt. He's using Redmond's real salt for the sea salt. Nice. Some shredded coconut. So it is a good mix of flavors that they've come up with. I think right now they might still have what's their fall flavor? They don't do a pumpkin spice. They do maple pecan.
They should, because that's amazing.
Well, no.
I am a basic girl. I love me some pumpkin spice.
Yeah, I get it. But they did maple butter pecan, and
sounds good too.
It is very good, because everybody does pumpkin spice, but it doesn't work as well as you would like with chocolate, and I think that's why they sort of avoided it.
I can say, because cacao is the number one ingredient.
Cacao is your fat, and then at the end of the day, it's 1,000 calorie brick. They're keto macros, so this entire thing has 51 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat. It's got some sodium, and total sugar.
And that's for the entire brick, right?
The entire brick. Again, 1,000 calories.
Yeah, that is for someone who's bodybuilding, but for you use it. I mean, I know you're trying to gain muscle too, but you use it as a snack.
So this is my snack after a meal, and maybe I'll have I'll at least have a quarter at lunch. Sometimes I'll have another quarter at dinner. If I've had a really busy day, I might eat a whole thing. But it just depends upon the day. But generally, that's what I'm eating. And it's a simple thing. Folks, a full-size chocolate bar, which are your favorite things. I don't know what's worse, is the full-size bars or the snack-sized bars. But a full-size chocolate bar is 250 to 300 calories. So, and then the snack-sized bars are maybe a quarter of that, but they're snack size, so you can have 6. Do that.
That's what people say. That's what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
go back to your sugar.
In general, like, I do feel a ton better. I don't get as hungry. It's all the things. I've done keto before. And then you just kind of fall off. And I really just don't want to do that anymore, because I'm tired of the inflammation process is going up and down and up and down. And the big deal for me right now is it's flu season, or it's COVID season, or whatever we want to call it now. And everybody's getting sick around me. And I know personally that sugar, and the studies have shown, sugar just tanks your immune system. So having insulin swings and sugar swings in your blood, it's just not great for your immune system. So I'm excited that I'm going to get through cold and flu season with high vitamin D levels, which is I'm supplementing, and not going through sugar swings, because I feel so much better, and I'm done.
Well, and then, we're coming in. This should, I think this will release before Thanksgiving. So as people are listening to this, what do you do about all the pies on Thanksgiving? And here, where we're going to give you our blessing. If you're cutting your sugars back and you're saying, hey, I'm not going to do sugars, Thanksgiving, you have all our blessing to eat every pie that grandma makes. And she'll only make 17. So, one of those is for you. But no, the point being is, on Thanksgiving, enjoy yourself.
It's one day.
It is one, and exactly, but it is one day. It is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, eating all the leftovers. Now, if you got a bunch of leftovers, there's bound to be a food pantry that will probably take half a pie. They
probably not, but
they should.
Adorable you think that. They should. No, but first of all, it's okay to throw food away. That is okay. And especially also, there are people so we host Thanksgiving, but I get these tins, like dollar store tins, or I get them on Amazon, and I will pile a whole bunch of food in there and send them with my guests. So and we just put aluminum foil over it, and they take home. So in my house, that will be left is a few, I've got family, so there'll be a few things, but turkey is healthy. I'll keep the carcass, and I'll make some soup out of it. And so you can still have some things that are healthy out of that meal, and knowing that, eat more turkey too, because that's a good protein.
Exactly. And one of the things that, I am in charge of all the protein for our Thanksgiving meal. So I've got 2 turkeys ordered, and we're going to smoke a brisket starting, that morning as well. So that way.
Do you fry your turkey, or do you guys cook them in the oven?
Fried turkey.
Okay. Well, hold on. I was going to say after this, but somebody might be interested in this. I have never done that, but we really want to do it.
Delicious.
Okay. So give just a few tips.
All right.
Of what to do.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go on YouTube, and I'll go over some of the highlights of the tips, but this is what you're absolutely going to do. First, find Alton Brown's. He's got 2 recipes, but
I'm writing this down.
Find his Alton Brown's recipes for deep fried turkey. He has 2. The later one, the one that is newer, has a much simpler brine recipe, and he has basically said the simpler brine tastes better. There are a bunch of fancy brines you can do. You can try that too, but the simpler brine tastes better.
Okay.
You do the whole thing in peanut oil. I did see
Peanut oil. They have that at Costco and no, they have it at Sam's Club.
Right. But make sure it's peanut oil and not a peanut soy oil, because there's some adulteration. So
okay.
Try
make
to
sure it's 100% pure.
Try to get 100% pure peanut oil. Then the other thing you want to take a hard look at, if you're sort of crazy like me, you could, who is it? Cabela's does have bacon grease. And it's a big old tub of bacon grease that you just dump in, warm up, and you can fry in that as well. My dad and I had a conversation, and he's like, I like the peanut oil, and I'm like, fine, we're going to do peanut oil. I'm okay with that.
Again, it's one day.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's peanut oil is better if you're going to choose. It's better than like canola oil. Exactly.
And that's where you want to stay away from canola and soy, because all sorts of problems. Not that peanut oil doesn't, but it's a slightly better.
It's the lesser of the evil.
Yeah, and it's tasty, and you can make French fries in it beforehand and afterwards, and it's going to taste more like Five Guys fries. So,
wait a second.
Yes.
Wait a second. You just blew my mind, because again, I'm going to have a beautiful Thanksgiving, but you're telling me I can make French fries too.
Yes. Now, if you want to go down,
I'm so excited.
If you want to go down the French fry rabbit hole, there's a couple things you have to do to really make that work properly. Again, go search on YouTube, but the simple.
So wait, do you do the French fries before the turkey, or when you pull the turkey and you're letting that rest and then you do your French fries?
I'm doing French fries first thing in the morning while we're sort of figuring out our timing. I want to get my thing hot, so I'll do a bunch of French fries because we're all prepping for lunch, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have snacks, and we got we got the kids running around, and the kids are gonna eat French fries, so it's a little snack to prepare us for lunch, because I do 2 turkeys, one back to back.
So you only use one fryer. You're using the same fryer.
I'm only using one fryer. So, but in any case, first, your bird. So watch Alton Brown's stuff. He has a whole safety video on how to get it so you don't die. So
don't do it inside your garage. I've heard that, because that's not smart.
Do it on a nice place where you've got a nice flat surface. It could be grass. But you want it away from things so that if it does boil over and catch on fire, you're not going to have any problems. You are going to use a fresh turkey. No frozen turkeys.
Okay.
Frozen turkeys. If you have to use a frozen turkey, it should have been thawed. You should have started the thawing process in the refrigerator at least on Sunday.
Well, and then you're going to be brining it anyway. So
well, you can brine a frozen turkey easily enough. But again, you're starting to bring it up to temperature. So again, I would start that on Sunday. I do what is it? I'll brine it Tuesday night, and then we fry it Thursday morning. So whatever, not quite,
how much time that is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit, 36 hours or so, but give or take. But a day is plenty. The problem with frozen turkeys is when you put them in the deep fryer, you turn your deep fryer into a cannon.
But I've heard that you still could do a frozen turkey. It absolutely cannot even have a lick of freeze on it anymore. It has to be completely. But you're saying no frozen turkey in general.
Well, I'm saying don't even bother, because you don't want a piece of ice. Ice in a deep fryer is explosive.
It's explosion. Yeah.
So if you want a cannon, that's a fun way to light it.
I don't want a cannon. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you also don't want to visit from the fire department. Holidays, you don't want to visit the ER. You don't want the fire department or the police to visit you. Just don't let yourself get into that situation. Alton Brown has a great using an A-frame ladder. He's got a great way to pulley it up. You don't have to be that fancy, but if you're a little bit safety crazy, great. And now you can justify buying that $300 ladder you wanted, so you don't burn down your house. And
we already have it, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got it, so you can use that. But yeah, those are the big tricks. You bring your oil up to temperature. I like the higher BTU burners. Just if you have one that you've used in the past, you might have, if you're not using it on a regular, you might have little itty bitty spiders that get in there.
Yes.
They will create a web that is very, very rigid, and it won't allow air to pass through. It won't burn because the flame is always above the area where the thing's coming out, but the area inside is effectively dead because it won't allow the gas to flow.
That happened. I bought what I call a flamethrower, which is like a weed burner. That happened to my flamethrower. I only got to use it a couple times, and then it was winter time, and then by spring it was broken.
Yeah, and that's sort of the downside to some of these devices. But you can get a compressed air, and I would use a
might clear it out. So when I buy one of these things, then probably once it's obviously all cleaned and ready, I should probably keep it on the inside, not keep it outside.
Doesn't matter. It's gonna,
they're gonna get in there. Okay.
These things are everywhere, and you just don't even know that they're there because they're that small. So yeah, you swallowed several last night. That's
hey now, I don't do that. So
yeah, I don't either, and I'm not going to pretend that that's a thing.
Nope, that's not a thing. It's not. It's not a thing. That's not in my. That's one of those things. Oh, I just had a thought. Is also back to the last thing we were talking about is decreasing your social media. For a lot of older people, they also watch too much news.
Oh yeah.
So I don't care if it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC. I don't care what cable news you're watching. Turn it off. Give yourself just like I said, with the amount of time that you are on screen time, consider that your screen time. And you've got news time, and you can do a half hour, maybe an hour a day. Do not leave that on in your house all day. That is just terrible for your brain.
Just because they came up with a 24-hour news cycle doesn't mean there's actually 24 hours of news in
there isn't. And y'all listening to this know that. They're just saying the same thing over and over, and it's just making your blood pressure go up. So no, turn that off.
Twisting it around in unfortunate ways, and also realize that what they tell you the first time may not actually be the truth, and it's just somebody who said, "Hey, I heard a thing," and then they do the fact check, and then like 2 days later, no, that thing never happened. So if it's something new, assume that it's sort of like the updates to your phone and the new phones and things like that. You don't want to get the newest phone. You don't want to get the update right after it comes out because there might be bugs and there might be problems with it. And the same thing applies to your news. I
may have gotten the newest phone this last time, just saying, on the first day it was out. But it was only because I really needed a new phone. And they're like, the new one is coming out. And I was like, okay.
And I have a 7 Plus, and my wife keeps on telling me I need a new phone. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Because then I have to transfer everything. And this is my brain.
Literally, they make it so easy. It transfers in 20 minutes. It does it by itself now.
I'm aware, but I still don't want to transfer it. Anyways.
I know. But
here is a phone transfer tip that I have always practiced, and that you'll be like, oh, that sounds painful, because it is. But when I get a new phone, I don't let anything transfer over. I download it all fresh, because I have stuff on here that I don't need
anymore. Yeah, it's like cleaning out your closet. You're cleaning out your mental closet on your phone.
Right, but I might use it someday. So
it's hoarding behavior, but on your phone. Oh
it is.
My gosh, that's a whole new thing. We could write a book on that.
We probably could. And so what I do when I get a new phone is I download the things that I know I'm going to use, and then I just don't add the other things.
Okay.
And then as I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, I need to get that, I'll download it. So
yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. So it takes me two or 3 days to get everything, transferred properly. But quite honestly, I'm starting fresh, and maybe I need to do that with this, but quite honestly, then I just don't want to.
I get it. It's a whole now you're saying it's a process, and I get it.
It's a process. Yeah. There's something else on sugar that I wanted. That getting back to the sugar and Thanksgiving. So on the turkey.
Wait, your sugar.
I know. On the deep fried turkey, go watch Alton Brown. He's got a whole episode talking about how to do a deep fried turkey. It is fantastic. Most of it's up on YouTube from his Good Eats days. Highly recommended.
Okay.
On the sugar, some people, some of us need to realize that there is no such thing as moderation in our life, or there's no such thing as moderation to certain things in our life. And for me, one of the things that I have found was I can't do sugar in moderation. That's what I was going to talk about. But I can do certain things, and if I can trick my brain into saying, "Oh, this is sweet," like the keto brick, I'm like, "Oh, that's good enough." I came across a recipe, and you're going to love this because you may want to try this and say, "Ooh, that might be good enough." It involved, it was a whole sheet pan, not a sheet pan, but like a 9 by 11 pan. And the only two ingredients outside of water were beef gelatin.
Okay.
And I used maple syrup. It was 3 tablespoons. You bloom 3 tablespoons of your gelatin in cold water, and then you add about 4 ounces of maple syrup. I don't quote me on that. That seems to be right in my brain, but I ended up putting 5 in, so I'd put more gelatin in. Anyways, you whip that up in a stand mixer and add some hot water. It turns into marshmallows. Yeah. So I did the math. I did the math on 5 ounces of maple syrup. As far as the carb content, the whole 5 ounces was 20 grams. That is within the safe area for your carbohydrate intake, even on keto, for the whole thing. After it cools down, and you have this nice gooey. It's not.
Is it cuttable? Is it like a cuttable thing, or is it more of a scoopable?
It's more of a rippable, because I made it last week. Yeah, the top sort of gets sort of how Jello will sort of get that sort of top hard after a couple of days sitting in the fridge. That's what it ended up being, because I had a little bit of it. But it is so simple. It is so stupid simple to make your own marshmallows. I've been avoiding this because I saw another Alton Brown recipe that was super complicated, and I'm just like, oh, that's going to be a mess. This was so easy that I might do it again tonight with honey. But you want a liquid sugar, so I would use either raw honey or maple syrup, because both of those, will mix really easily. I wouldn't do a straight sugar because sugar. But it's, again, I could eat the whole thing and have 20 grams of protein, or 20 grams.
But you won't eat the whole thing. Is the issue too? You could.
I did yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
but like if you can break it into 4 days, then you're really, that's only five carbs.
Oh yeah. No, but again, it's enough that even if you ate the whole thing in a sitting, you're not going to have a problem. You could put it out amongst the 4 of you at your house, and it could be gone in a day, but no one's going to feel bad about that.
And the beef gelatin is a very healthy thing for our body.
Yep, and I got Now brand beef gelatin that I picked up at Family Health Food. A tablespoon. And this calls for the recipe that I use called for 3 tablespoons, but a tablespoon has 9 grams of protein. So really good for you. Any case,
very good.
We've been going for an hour, and we didn't plan on that. And
but I think it's really good information. And, we talked about some sad stuff, talked about some happy stuff. And I think we had a good podcast, guys.
Yeah. Woo! Any case, we will, and I just got Dr. Luttrell reached back to me, and we'll get that figured out. We'll have her on here sometime.
I'm very excited to have her on in the next couple weeks. She is a radiologist, chiropractic radiologist, and she is just a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot wait to pick her brain.
She is. She's great. So, any case, let's wrap here. Folks, Dr. Bagley, where are they going to find you?
I am in St. Louis, Missouri. You can find me at precisionchirostl.com.
And I'm at Keystone Chiropractic, KeystoneChiroSBI.com. And all the socials and all that other fun stuff. Make sure you like and subscribe. 5-star reviews. We had a really big uptick, this past weekend on the podcast. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate it. Several people are finding us through other means, and I'm really excited that we're getting this out there. So again, we'll be back in a week. Hopefully everyone's going to have a great Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's all for today's episode of The Blonde and the Bald. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's show with Drs. Bagley and Schurger, remember, don't give up and just live with the pain. Come back next week and get more answers and solutions. Visit our websites at KeystoneChiroSPI.com and PrecisionChiropracticSTL.com for more info, and catch all the episodes of The Blonde and the Bald.